Draft season is well and truly here, so I'm gonna try and help you out. I'm gonna give you my final top 12 wide receiver rankings for PPR drafts. Half PPR might be a little bit different, but it'll be very, very close. Hopefully this helps you with your drafts. Why don't you comment down below? Let me know who you think is too high, who is low, and a wide receiver that you love this year. I'll start at 13 with an honorable mention, and that is Allen Robinson. He is my wide receiver 13. Check out our My Guys video. If I remember, I'll try and link it here, and I'll tell you exactly why you need to have Allen Robinson in every single one of your drafts this year. At number 12, Keenan Allen. Started off rough last year, started off real rough. Weeks 1 to 7, he was the wide receiver 30, but he was still 13th in targets. Then he finished really, really strong last year. Weeks 8 to 18 was the wide receiver 8 and 5th in targets. Now, a lot of people might ask, why do you not have him higher than this? Here's the thing. There is this common thought process that Mike Williams was heavily favored last year at a certain period and that it stopped. I don't truly understand that concept. I think Mike Williams is going to be a very good value this year. I actually like him at his ADP more than Keenan Allen. But if you look at weeks 1 to 7, where Mike Williams is the wide receiver 10, he was 17th in targets. Weeks 8 to 18, wide receiver 22, 18th in targets. So it's not as if Mike Williams is just, his usage is changing. It's just he didn't convert in some of those ways. And Keenan, to me, I had him in a lot of leagues last year. It was super frustrating to see Mike Williams go off on these certain weeks and win people weeks. And it was super frustrating to see Justin Herbert focus on him in the red zone, in the end zone. And to me, I think Keenan Allen this year is going to be one of those guys in a PPR format where his receptions will carry him, but I think the ceiling might be capped with Mike Williams on this team. So one of these safest picks you can have in all of fantasy football, but I have to keep him at 12. At number 11, give me Mike Evans. Now I had to move Mike down slightly with the news of Chris Godwin recovering quicker than we anticipated. Even if it's at worst for Mike owners, he comes back, let's say week 3, that's still going to impact Mike Evans long-term. I still like him though. Let's talk about it. 8 1,000-yard receiving seasons in a row. In 2021, he finished as a wide receiver 9, despite having the lowest number of receptions of any wide receiver in the top 15. As of right now, Chris Godwin is out. He's averaging about 9 targets per game. Gronk gone. AB gone. That's potentially 24.8 targets per game available. You have to assume that Julio and Russell Gage will get some of that, but Mike Evans, he will be a fantasy king until Godwin is back. And even when Godwin comes back, he's still going to be very fantasy relevant because, friendly reminder, Tom Brady just led the NFL in pass attempts, pass yards, pass touchdowns. I imagine Mike could be top 5 until Godwin comes back this season, and you might be able to sell him during that period. But give me Mike Evans at 11. He's got a safe floor. He's got a high upside. I'll take him here as my wide receiver 11. At number 10, bear with me, but give me T. Higgins. In 2021, he was the wide receiver 24. However, he averaged the 13th most points per game. Keep in mind, he missed 3 games last year. But if you look at his stat line, very, very similar to Mike Evans' stat line last year. Same receptions on 4 fewer targets, just 8 less touchdowns because he wasn't favored like Tom Brady favored Mike Evans in the end zone. Let's look at weeks 11 to 17 after the bye week, and keeping in mind that T didn't play in week 18, okay? Weeks 11 to 17, in that span, T. Higgins had more receptions, targets, and yards than Jamar Chase. He was the wide receiver 7 in that span. How about when it mattered most in the playoffs and potentially a preview this year? Now teams have an entire year of film on Jamar Chase. He is one of the best weapons in the NFL. Every defense will be game planning around Jamar Chase, which could leave T. Higgins in some very favorable scenarios, just like we saw in the Super Bowl when they had Ramsey on Jamar Chase. Let's look at the Super Bowl, which is, again, a preview of what we could see this year. Jamar Chase had 5 receptions, 8 targets, 89 yards. Higgins had 4 receptions on 7 targets, 100 yards, and 2 tutties. Again, we're going to see a lot of defenses start to game plan around Jamar Chase. And if you actually look at these two players side by side, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. T. Higgins actually had more targets per game last year. This offensive line just got better. There will be more time to throw the ball. And where T. Higgins dominates is in the contested catch area. He'll have more touchdowns this year. This offense is going to be fantastic. And I've already said it before. It's one of my hot takes. T. Higgins, book him as a top 10 wide receiver in fantasy this year. At number 9, give me A.J. Brown. I'll be honest with you guys. I was pretty hesitant on AJ Brown going to Philly. I do have my own concerns around Jalen Hurts and his ability to create a relevant fantasy wide receiver. Last year, Devonta Smith, wide receiver 30 on the year, and he was the number 1 dude. I have my hesitancy. Let me tell you why. And then I'll tell you why I kind of feel like he is safe here at wide receiver 9. Firstly, in Tennessee with AJ Brown, they trusted Ryan Tannehill to throw the ball. Will that happen here in Philly? We don't know the answer. When they were allowing Jalen Hurts to throw the ball, they lost a lot of games early in the season. They switched to a run-focused team. That's when they started winning some games, the Eagles, that is. Second reason, and the reason why A.J. Brown could really flourish in Tennessee was Ryan Tannehill's efficiency. If you actually look at Ryan Tannehill versus Jalen Hurts, of course, again, we do anticipate, we hope, most of the community hopes that Jalen Hurts takes a next step in his passing efficiency. But again, last year, I'm saying my worries. Last year, Ryan Tannehill was very efficient, which allowed A.J. Brown to flourish. We didn't see that efficiency from Jalen Hurts, which led to this team being more run-focused. And again, like the number 1 wide receiver on their team wasn't even in the top 24. So those were my concerns. But let me tell you what, I do believe that purely off of manufactured touches, A.J. Brown is going to be a very safe option as long as he can stay healthy this year. I do imagine potentially a Deebo Samuel type role being developed for AJ Brown in this offense, okay? Think about it. The run game has some question marks around Miles, around, Kenneth Walker, maybe wanting to make Jalen Hurts more into a passer. Could we see more of a role for AJ Brown in the run game like we've seen Deebo Samuel, or even more sweeps or the screen game? So you go ahead and combine the combination of AJ Brown's talent and the fact that they paid him $100 million. He should have at least 9 to 10 opportunities a game as a wide receiver. Those are numbers I am banking on here. The upside is truly top 5, so I'll go ahead and take him here as wide receiver 9. At number 8, give me Tyreek Hill. Tyreek and Jalen Waddle are going to be the centerpieces of this offense in Miami. They will have the most opportunities of any player in that offense every single week. Manufactured touches combined with Mike McDaniels as the head coach, you could be seeing a 49er type hybrid offense here. And with what McDaniels did, last year as the offensive coordinator in San Francisco with Deebo Samuel, makes me feel like he is a creative enough mind to figure out how to successfully use a guy like Tyreek Hill. Now, will the deep ball be there? We aren't 100% sure. So with the unknowns of Tua, I can't put him any higher than this, but we're talking about one of the most explosive weapons in the NFL in Tyreek Hill. Give him the ball, let him touch it one time and he can score. So I'm going to go ahead and put him as my wide receiver 8 here. And I am expecting a big step up from Tua. I want to see what he can do with 2 absolute studs at wide receiver. At number 7, give me Deebo Samuel. Okay, originally, I was a little bit worried about the reports when, there were the rumors out there that he didn't want to play the wide back role. Because in 2021, he had a lot of fantasy points from the ground. 365 rushing yards and 8 touchdowns. Over 84 points purely just from what he did on the ground. But he put those rumors to bed himself in an interview saying that, he didn't have any merit to it. And then you go look at this actual 49ers contract that he signed. There are rushing incentives for Deebo to hit in the contract that he just signed. So of course he's going to want to hit these rushing numbers if he's going to be paid well to do so. Can make up to $1.95 million over the next 3 years. And an additional $650,000 if he has more than 380 rushing yards in a season. Which, side note, with Trey Lance coming in, Deebo's incentives, is anyone else slightly worried about Elijah Mitchell's touchdowns this year? It kind of worries me. But anyway, we talk about Deebo Samuel again, just like Tyreek. This is one of those weapons in the NFL who can score with any touch. But even better than Tyreek, you can use Debo anywhere, literally anywhere, even in the backfield. He's someone who probably touches the ball 12 to 15 times per game, and I am more than comfortable to take a shot on him here as my wide receiver 7. At number 6, give me CeeDee Lamb. Let's not make this harder than it needs to be. Dallas had the 5th most passing attempts in 2021. Amari Cooper, Cedric Wilson are both gone, leaving 165 vacant targets in this offense. That is 11.3 targets per game, completely vacant. I believe we could see a huge jump for CeeDee this year in his target share, going from about 7.5 targets per game to 8 or 9 targets per game, somewhere in that category. We could see CeeDee Lamb easily top 5 in targets this year amongst wide receivers. 8 to 9 targets in the same offense that scored the most points in 2021. The sky is truly the limit for CeeDee Lamb this year. All right, so that is it for my tier 2 players. Everyone from 12 to 6, these are tier 2 wide receivers. I believe all these wide receivers have a chance to finish top 5. Now I'm gonna give you my tier 1 list now starting at number 5. My tier 1, all 5 of these guys, I believe have the chance to be the wide receiver 1 in all of fantasy football. So let's start with number 5. That is Stefon Diggs. Diggs started off quite slow last year and probably left a bad taste in some people's mouths. But you think about it, weeks 1 to 5, again, slow start, wide receiver 25. But after the bye from weeks 8 to 18, he was the wide receiver 5 in fantasy football. His target share went down a little bit. In 2020, he had 10.3 targets per game. In 2021, that went down to 9.6. That feels like a more sustainable number for me, 9.6 targets per game. And by the way, last year, even though his numbers went down, he was still top 5 in targets amongst wide receivers. You're telling me I'm probably getting 9.6 targets per game. The number 1 wide receiver connected to Josh Allen, the best quarterback right now in fantasy, who last year had the 4th most passing attempts per game, 38 per game. That is money signs for me in an incredible offense. Stefon Diggs has a legitimate chance to be the wide receiver 1. At number 4, and a lot of you guys are not going to like this, but I have Jamar Chase as my wide receiver 4. I've seen some people draft him as their wide receiver 1 or 2, and I understand, but bear with me for a second. To be honest, it was really close between Chase and Diggs for me, and I think they're interchangeable between 4 and 5. To be clear, this is not a I don't like Jamar Chase take. This is a I think T. Higgins is much, much closer to Jamar Chase than people want to realize. By the way, I'll try and link it if I remember, but we did a video on our page called Jamar Chase or T. Higgins. Watch that and I will tell you a bunch of reasons in depth as to why I think T. Higgins is closer than people want to realize. But we're talking about Jamar Chase, incredible rookie season, broke Justin Jefferson's records as a rookie. But 2 reasons I'm worried. Number 1, we have an entire year now where defenses have film on Jamar Chase and how he wins. This is going to be the player, again, that defenses game plan around. 100%. And that will potentially leave T. Higgins with some more opportunities. I don't want to get too in depth because it's a longer video, but again, please go watch the Jamar Chase T. Higgins video. I love Jamar Chase, love him in best ball, but I am going to take more T. Higgins this year in drafts, and I don't have Jamar Chase in my top 3. At number 3, lock in Davante Adams. I know a lot of you are probably still upset that I don't have Jamar Chase in my top 3, but I got 141 million reasons why you should not undervalue Davante Adams this year. 5-year, $141 million deal that he just signed. He wanted to go to Las Vegas, and it's safe to say that Vegas wanted him. Wide receiver 2 last year in fantasy football in Green Bay, where he put up incredible numbers. But what if I told you that there's a little nugget here that might give you more confidence in Davante Adams this year? Green Bay versus Las Vegas in 2021. Pass attempts per game. Green Bay was 18th. Las Vegas, 6th. How about pass yards per game? Again, Green Bay, 9th. Las Vegas, 6th. So knowing that this was a pass-happy offense last year, like what was Derek Carr able to produce? Well, he's already produced a top 10 wide receiver in Hunter Renfrow. Now you get a $141 million contract to Davante Adams, a target hog, who is 100% going to demand about 9 to 10 targets a game there, lock him in for 150 targets. You were able to make Hunter Renfrow top 10? What could you do with Davante Adams with 150 targets in Las Vegas? You've also got Darren Waller people need to focus on. Hunter Renfrow people need to focus on. He is one of the safest picks if you're going to go wide receiver early and JJ and Cooper Kupp are not on the board. I will have a lot of Davante Adams this year. In conclusion, the Raiders threw more than Green Bay, had more pass yards per game than Green Bay. And these two guys already have a connection. Davante Adams is going to feast. I know that there is a cliff that comes for every wide receiver. It's not coming this year for Davante Adams. At number 2, give me Cooper Kupp. I know there's a lot of people, again, who might be upset that he's not my number 1, but let's talk about it. 191 targets last year, 22 more than any other player. But you have to anticipate some sort of regression for Cooper Kupp this year. 11.2 targets per game is not sustainable. I just talked about Stephon Diggs a couple takes ago and talked about how people were disappointed how from 2020 to 2021, his targets dipped a little bit. This is natural. It's not human for someone to have 11.2 targets per game. Expect some sort of regression for Cooper Kupp this year. Same quarterback, same head coach, same play caller, but you have to anticipate some sort of regression. And I believe that Allen Robinson will have a bigger impact on this offense than Robert Woods ever could. So I still like Cooper Kupp, but give me Justin Jefferson as my wide receiver 1 overall this year. His rookie season, he put up record-breaking numbers. 1,400 yards, 7 touchdowns, wide receiver 6 finish. And everyone said, can he do it again? I even said, can he do it again? His sophomore year, he improves in receptions, in targets, in yards, and in touchdowns. Finishes as the wide receiver 4. A consistent uptick in his first 2 seasons in targets, receptions, yards, and touchdowns. 4th most receptions, 2nd most receiving yards in 2021. One of the best starts to a wide receiver's career ever that we have ever seen in the history of the game. Now you have a new head coach in Kevin O'Connell, who comes into this team who just coached who? Cooper Kupp. He was the offensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams. Obviously, that incredible Cooper Kupp Triple Crown winner. We're now talking about Justin Jefferson. A huge part of Justin Jefferson's growth into becoming this wide receiver 1 could be Kevin O'Connell. Kevin himself has openly stated that this is going to be a more pass-happy offense this year in Minnesota. Also keeping in mind that Kevin O'Connell already has a relationship with his quarterback. So there's already some good chemistry and some success that we've seen between O'Connell and Kirk Cousins as he served as a quarterback coach in Washington in 2017. For Justin Jefferson, come with me for a second. Cooper Kupp's offensive coordinator, the same quarterback, the same wide receiver room, a healthy Dalvin Cook. I like a wide receiver 1 prediction for Justin Jefferson this year. He will be the focal point of an offense that wants to transition to be a more pass-happy offense. They were down in a lot of games last year. I don't think the defense really got all that better, so they will be down in a lot of games this year. Give me Justin Jefferson to be the wide receiver 1 in 2022. So let me know, where did I go wrong in your opinion? I mean, I like all my rankings, but of course we all have our opinions. We have our reasoning. Tell me who you think is too high, too low, and who is your wide receiver 1 this year? Comment down below.
Yo, what's good? Thanks for watching. We got a lot more videos.
A lot more.
If you want more videos.
Watch it.
You can also subscribe.
Right now.
If you want to.
You need to.
And lastly, don't forget that you can sign up to support the show and get exclusive content by going to patreon.com/FantasyLand fam.